We should not borrow to fund consumption. We should borrow to fund infrastructure, the economic development, so that that infrastructure and economic development will repay the loan. I agree that one thing that we should do is that I agree that the federal government allocation is very low. And you, as journalists, also know that in this year, there has been no release to fund any of the items in the 2025 budget. Has there been a release?
No.
Has there been any release?
No.
Good. If you want to charge or be angry why we should not borrow, find out what has been the revenue of the federal government compared with what it has to do. My only quarrel with the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Budget and Planning and the Budget Office of the Federation is that they ought not to use 2025 revenue to fund 2024 budget. It is inappropriate. Whenever budget is finished, it means the revenue for that year is finished. And then you go into the revenue of the next year, draw a line, and use and now fund the budget of the new year. Projects and programs that you couldn't complete in 2024 ought to be rolled over to 2025 and taken as 2025 budget, 2025 project, and funded as such. Now, we're going to a question of the money available to the federal government. The federal government does not have enough money from the revenue allocation to fund its projects and programs. The federal government should come out and tell the country that it has insufficient money. It is unreasonable for the federal government to want to be a good man, but you are borrowing to feed your children. Whereas the state government, every state government is praising the federal government, praising the Tinubu administration for making enough money available for them to fund their project. And every state government is telling the president and the country and their citizens that they are not borrowing, that they have enough money by the economic policies of President Tinubu. But the presidency and the federal and President Tinubu himself, who is making this money available to the state government and local government, if the money ever gets to the local government, does not have money to fund its own project. Does it make sense? And the federal government is facing strikes all over because it doesn't have money to make a project. Even the constituency project. The other day I saw in the Ministry of Finance when the people who did projects for the federal government almost went to complain to the ministry in a rowdy manner. So the federal government should come out and make sure that they face the reality of the situation. And the reality of the situation is that they have to review revenue allocation of this country so that much more money is added to the federal government so that federal government can exercise its own obligations under the Constitution without borrowing. I'm sure everybody will agree that the federal government is not borrowing after it has realized so much revenue. No, it is not borrowing after realizing so much revenue. It is borrowing because revenue has not come in. And whatever revenue has come in is used in funding 2024 budget. I am a lawyer of good standing. And I work and I know about the judiciary. I want to my knowledge, neither the judiciary nor executive has received release for year 2025 as at 3rd or 4th November, which is just remaining only 1 month of the year. They haven't received the release for 2025. So You cannot say that Tinubu has generated this money and has kept it without using. If he has kept it, tell National Assembly not to approve the loan because you have realized there is money you have generated and it is kept there. Do I make sense? Yes. Now, why do we need to review the revenue allocation? The responsibilities of the federal government has increased 1,000,000-fold, more than it was when we had the present revenue allocation. The security situation was not like this. We did not have this number of universities which are funded by the federal government. The universities, colleges of education, polytechnics, and special institutions, they're all funded by the federal government. At that time, you only had University of Nigeria Nsukka, Meduguri, Kano, and University of Ibadan, University of Lagos. That's what it was. But now it is a lot more and louder, you know. So you don't have a situation of the federal government having more money and less responsibilities. Their responsibilities has not tripled, it has not quadrupled, but it has gone 1,000 times more than it was. Now, you also see, at that time, the National Assembly was not anticipated. You see now that today, the National Assembly is on first line charge, taking their money directly. Is that correct?
Yes.
You see the judiciary is on first line charge, taking their money directly. You see the Niger Delta Development Commission, the National Human Rights Commission, Universal Basic Education Commission, the National Assembly Library and Resource Center. A lot of all of them, they are now on special first line charge, taking money, which was not anticipated. And the money they are taking is part of the federal government's share. You did not have the Federal Capital Territory running as a state, taking a percentage. You did not have. So all this happens, they say Nigeria happens. All this happens to the federal government. And yet, the revenue allocation formula has not changed. So money is available for the children, the state government and local government, to eat and be bellyful and often spend on frivolities. Meanwhile, the grandfather, the federal government, does not have enough money. I'm sure, again, security was not as much as, the challenge was not as much as this. And you did not have all the agencies you now have, which are also funded by the federal government's allocation. You had the police, the army, and the NSO, Nigerian Security Organization. But you now have the army, the police, the civil defense, road safety, and all the other rishi, this thing, which sometimes are not necessary, and I repeat, are not necessary, and for the third time, they are not necessary. But they are taking revenue, all from the federal government's share of the allocation. So it has become extremely necessary for us to now have a reviewed revenue allocation, which will now take account of the new increased responsibilities of the federal government. Give them much money so that they don't need to borrow to fund. And of course, this money the federal government is borrowing, it is the same federal government that will be repaying from its own still meager 52%. And so it will keep as a cycle. So it will never have money unless and until you review revenue allocation formula and give them extra money. Nigeria is not drifting towards one party by any machination of the APC or the Tinubu-led federal government. It is because those political parties have not taken steps to survive as political parties. My only concern is the status of the members of the National Assembly and State Houses of Assembly, because no court has declared that there is a division in any of these political parties. And if the court has not declared that there is a division in your party, unless and until there is that declaration that there is a division, then you are still bound and a member of your party. And so if you declare and leave your party, you have lost your seat. Whether it is declared vacant or not declared, in law, you have lost your seat. And you are only sitting on a seat, but you are only sitting there, but you have lost the legitimacy because you have left the people the mandate that they gave you. So, and until there is that declaration, there is a legal question. Last week, I read and I have the judgment of a court that declared a member's seat from Zamfara State vacant. And that judgment has not just originated. I'm sure all of you, most of you were on the floor when Saraki defected from PDP to APC. I raised it on the floor that Saraki should leave the chamber because he is no more a member or he is no more a senator, that he should leave. And the president of the Senate should declare his seat vacant. That is on record of the National Assembly of the 7th Senate. And on that day, I brought the judgment that was just delivered 4 days before by the Federal High Court, I think Justice Chukwu of the Federal High Court of blessed memory. I brought it to the chamber. And that situation has gone up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has even affirmed that other than declaring the seat vacant, the person should refund all the salaries and anything that he has collected for the period after defecting. That is the Supreme Court. Before members start, because any person that takes them to court, the court will declare their seat vacant. And it's not a new judgment. So, before we start accusing the court, let us know that the Constitution has not been amended. And the law is still the law as it were. So if the court, as we're called upon in the Zamfara case, makes a declaration, you are bound by that declaration. So it is not APC that is leading us to a one-party state. It is we that are working towards that gravitating towards APC, not one-party state. We're all gravitating towards APC.